oh my God, girl, we are gonna get you that Emmy. We're gonna get you that Golden Globe. Welcome back to The Secret Life of B. I'm B, and today I have a very different video for you guys. Because normally I only cover books on this channel. Very little do I cover TV shows, and when I do, it's usually related to books. But I watched a TV show this past weekend that quite honestly changed my life, okay? It was so interesting, so unique, so cool, so different that I had no choice but to make a video on it because I have not been able to stop thinking about this show. I mean, I'm talking about it to anyone that will listen, to be honest. And so, of course, I wanted to talk about it with you guys. And so that show is Swarm, which was co-created by Donald Glover and Janine Neighbors. And so, honestly, I went into the show pretty blind. I didn't know a whole lot about what the show was. I didn't even watch a trailer. The only thing I knew about it was what I saw from a TikToker that I follow, and he didn't even know much about it because he was talking about how the show was barely being promoted. But the more he was talking about it, the more interested I became because, okay, Donald Glover, we have involvement from Malia Obama. All right, I'm talking Obama's daughter. She worked on the show. I believe she did episode 5. We also have appearances from Billie Eilish, from Chloe Bailey and Paris Jackson. And honestly, I was just very intrigued by this whole idea. I've watched a few episodes of Atlanta and I think it's a really cool show. And so when I tell you, this show had me hooked from episode 1. And I think that if I hadn't watched it so late, I probably would have watched the whole episode all the way through that whole night, but I didn't want to be up all night. So I watched it in 2 sittings, but it's only 7 episodes. So if you haven't watched it yet, definitely check it out. I think you'll be able to get through it in 1 day if you have the time. Anyways, let's just get started with the review. I'm going to be talking real quick about what the show's about. So we have this character named Dre, who is, let's just say, a devoted fan to this singer named Nyjah. And without revealing too much, you know what, I'm probably going to talk about spoilers in this, so if you haven't seen it, honestly, this might not be the video for you. But as we know, in episode 1, she loses someone very close to her named Marissa, and that kind of sends her into a spiral of murderous behavior. Now, there's a lot of factors to the show, but a main factor is the parasocial relationship that she has with the singer named Nyjah. She thinks she has a stronger connection than she actually does. Nyjah, she doesn't know anything about the people that stand her. She's this major celebrity. There's no way she can know the millions of people that follow her. But these people that are following her know everything about Nyjah, everything there is to know about her at least. And so in their minds, they think that they have a deeper connection than they do. And someone like Dre, let's just say she lives vicariously through Nyjah, okay? Nyjah's successes are her successes. Nyjah's failures are her failures. And it becomes to a point where she is obsessed with her and it's very unhealthy. And throughout the season, anyone that's against Nyjah is against Dre. She is made it her mission to defend Nyjah and eliminate anyone that doesn't like Nyjah. It's very, very strange. But listen, I will tell you this. Watching this show was such a very surreal experience for me because let's just say I've had my experience with fan bases. I've had my fair share of fan bases that I've been a part of since middle school, quite honestly. The first one being One Direction. Do not judge me, but yeah, I was part of that One Direction fan base back in middle school through high school. I also was a fan of Little Mix, and then when I got into college and a little bit of high school as well, I was really into K-pop. I was in my K-pop bag for quite some time, I'm not gonna lie y'all. And it was only until a year or so ago that I finally decided to take a step back. But I'll tell you right now, a lot of the behavior and a lot of the dialogue coming from Nyjah and even Marissa is not anything surprising. It's not shocking. It is not something that's just made up. These are how people really talk and behave and think in these fan bases. Of course, they're not murderous serial killers like Dre, but these people really can be removed from reality. And I think anyone that is aware of Beyonce or her fan base has already made the connection. It's very obvious this is a parody on the Beehive and Beyonce. And while I was never part of the Beehive, so I can't really speak to that aspect of the show, I will tell you it's no different than any other fan bases, especially the major fan bases. And I recognize a lot of characteristics in Dre and other people that I've belonged to a fan base with. And some people just really cross that boundary. Some people really are just that far removed from reality. And I'll tell you what, fan bases have a lot of great positives to it, but they also have a lot of huge negatives to it as well. Fan bases can be incredibly toxic. But I recognize why Dre would want to be part of a fan base. Like, fan bases, you can have some of the most closest friends in a fan base. I mean, think about it. You're all standing one person. You all have a shared interest. You all love to listen to this artist's music, or you like to watch this actor's shows, or you like to read this specific book. You can be a fan base for many different things. But when it comes to being in a fan base, there's this idea of community and belonging. And that is quite clear. That is something Dre wanted since the beginning. I'll get into that later. But I think that is why being a fan was so huge for her. That's where she really felt like she belonged. And again, like I said before, it's also incredibly negative and toxic. I can go on all day about the negatives of being in a fan base, but a huge one is the fact that you don't really know the person you're standing. And it gets to this point where it's simply unhealthy for you, and you're spending all this time and energy and a lot of people money on this artist when you could be spending it on yourself. Let's be real here. A lot of people in these fan bases lose sleep. They lose money a lot. They neglect their responsibilities sometimes. They like would rather stream and do all this stuff rather than do homework. They sometimes neglect their own health, you know? And another negative aspect to fan bases is that being an individual is kind of frowned upon in a way. Like groupthink, that is a huge thing. If you go against the grain, if you think differently than what most of the fans do, if you don't like a song from this artist, if you say something that it goes against what maybe your fave did, even if your fave was in the wrong, even if they did something problematic, if you point it out, a lot of fans will be like, oh, you're not a true fan, you're turning your back. Like, no, but that's kind of frowned upon to have your own individual opinion. So like groupthink is a major thing. And when it comes to like streaming and supporting the artist through like voting and paying for stuff and all that stuff, it comes to a point where like you're seen as like a fake fan if you're not spending all your time streaming their songs to get them like wins or #1s on charts. And that's what I noticed a lot when it came to K-pop. I'm pretty sure it's the same thing for the Beehive because that's where they get the inspiration for this show. But that's some things that I recognize right away. And I'll tell you what, this is a horror show, this is a thriller for sure, but it's also a comedy. It's a comedy through and through. I was chuckling throughout the whole season. I could not stop laughing because I just recognized the connection so quickly. And so, yeah, I definitely think this show is very interesting. There's so many routes you can go when talking about parasocial relationships. But I really think that a show like this is very cool because I don't feel like we have had a lot of shows or movies that touch on this topic. So now that we talked about the plot a little bit, let's get into the casting, because I did mention it before, a few people that were in the show, but I really want to give some time to talk about the main actress here, Miss Dominique Fishback, because oh boy, does she eat this role up. Like, oh my God, girl, we are gonna get you that Emmy. We're gonna get you that Golden Globe. There's no way you're not doing a role like this and not getting some sort of recognition. Like, this is probably one of the best performances I will ever see this year. I'm calling it now. And I just, anytime she came on screen, I felt scared. I felt on edge because her character is so unhinged and unpredictable. You don't know what she's gonna do next. And that's so exciting for a character like this. And we don't have a lot of serial killer shows for Black people in general, but especially not a Black woman. Like, this is so like new to me. I feel like I haven't seen this at all. And I just think she's doing amazing in this role. She conveys so much and so little. She conveys a lot with just a look, with just her eyes. There's moments where she's delivering a monologue and they're only focusing on her eyes because she's just that powerful of an actress. Like, if there's one thing to take away from this whole video, Dominique, we're gonna get you that Emmy. That's the tagline here. That is the tagline here. But anyways, like I said before, this is a very strong cast, and a cast I truly was not expecting. I mean, Billie Eilish, I didn't know she was an actress. I didn't know that was her thing. But lo and behold, she was a bit too good in her role as a cult leader. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, I think Billie has a very intense way of acting, and it's so good. Then you have Chloe Bailey. She's been acting before, probably since she was young, and I think she was great as this character. Granted, her character doesn't have a whole lot of screen time, Obviously, if you watch episode 1, you'll know why, but she's in a lot of the other episodes in like different ways, like flashbacks and stuff. But I really think that her role is very important, and I think she did a great job in portraying that closeness to Dre. And then we have Paris Jackson, whose role is honestly a parody in itself. Just her being casted, I feel like, was part of why that role was so entertaining, because we all know who Paris Jackson is, and then seeing her like kind of joke about her race through Halsey, it was so funny, and she did a really good job with the little screen time she got. Was not expecting that end for her. So sad. But anyways, besides that, I think there was not a single bad performance in this. I think the ensemble cast did such a good job, and yeah, I really cannot wait for what's next for Dominique especially. And so moving on from the casting, I really want to get into the episodes themselves. They were all amazing, but episode 6 in particular, I don't know what it was. I love that episode. I personally think that's my favorite episode of the whole season because it's so unique and so different. I mean, already it's like a mockumentary style, right? Visually, it looks so different because all the other episodes were filmed on film, I assume. They are filmed on film. They also have a different aspect ratio. I believe it's a 1:1. Episode 6 is 16:9, which is what we're used to. And it also is like visually different. It like has blown out lighting. It's overexposed. It's filmed on digital instead of film, and so it looks a lot more crisp and clear, but also it's a mockumentary, so the camera is shaky because we're following this investigator. And I wouldn't even be surprised if the frame rate was like a 29 frames per second or something. I don't know, but I loved just how it looked. I love the tone. Like I said before, this whole show is funny in my opinion, but episode 6 did not hold back on the comedy. The investigator was just hilarious, the things she was saying. But I really love the way the story unfolded for episode 6. A lot of people, surprisingly, were like, episode 6 is such a filler episode. And I'm just like, what's so filler about it? We get literally all the answers we need. And I wasn't expecting an episode like that, to be honest. And I thought it was really cool that they don't flat out tell you what you're watching. And so when I was watching, I'm like, didn't the mom look different? Because we're getting the same names, we're getting the same plot, but like, why do these people look so different? And then you finally click. I'm sure it clicked for, you know, all of us differently at different times, but towards the end, I didn't really understand what I was watching until the mom started talking about what happened. And then Donald Glover comes on screen. It's just like, yeah, I'm making this show. I love that. That was the coolest shout out ever. That was such a cool moment. And another thing that's really cool about episode 6 is that there was a huge hint to what happens in the finale in episode 6 that I'm sure some people might have missed because it came pretty quickly and it wasn't like a huge thing. But we find out from the investigator that Dre really did storm the stage on Nija's tour. And that's what happens in episode 7. They tell you flat out what happens. So I think a lot of people might have been confused watching that finale because they might have thought that maybe she hallucinated going on stage. But no, she actually did storm the stage. So I think that's what happened. And the fact that the show gave us that outcome before we even saw episode 7 is just such a cool thing to do. But honestly, episode 6 is just so funny to me, especially the scene where they are interviewing the fan when he's in his room, which, by the way, that room was decked out in Nija merchandise, and that's definitely something you would see with like a K-pop fan, a One Direction fan back in the day. I'm pretty sure the Beehive. So they definitely did their research. They definitely know what they were doing when it comes to the set design. But I thought it was funny that he was like questioning whether or not like, would I say no to murder when it comes to Nija? Like it took him a while to get there. He did reject the idea, but like that's how out of touch some fans are. So as I mentioned before, this show does have a big main topic when it comes to parasocial relationships between the fan and the celebrity, but there are other topics I feel like this show touches on lightly. So one topic is false idolship, and of course that is something that can relate to Dre and Nija's storyline, but also relates to the cult storyline with Billie Eilish's character. So like we all know, cults are created by leaders that really do not have good intentions, and they are liars, manipulators, just really awful people a lot of the time. But the people that end up following them are under this impression that this person is a god or someone worthy of being worshipped or just loved unconditionally. And the way that this happens is they prey on really innocent people, or they prey on really vulnerable, broken people. And so I thought that was a really cool thing to include here, because it does kind of tie into the parasocial relationship fan base storyline with Dre. And yeah, I just really think the writing on this show is just impeccable. And lastly, before I get into the ending, I want to talk about another topic that this show touches on, which is how the system really lets down children when it comes to foster care. And that's not something we really got from the first 5 episodes until episode 6, when we find out who Dre is and where she came from. Now, we do get some context clues in the episode where she joins the cult briefly, and we find out that her first moment of listening to Nyjah actually happened at the same time she had a traumatic event. Now, they never explicitly say what exactly happened, but I believe she offed her grandmother, or like physically harmed her in a way that was like beyond repair. I don't know what exactly happened. Some people hypothesize that maybe she witnessed her mom get like badly hurt. Either way, this traumatic event happened to her at the exact same time she started listening to Nyjah, and then she ends up getting transferred into this foster family, who is the family of Marissa. Now, her and Marissa hit it off immediately, but the family from day one only saw her as a check, and that is a major issue when it comes to the foster care system. I'm not saying that it's all the people that are involved in the foster care system, but it is a major issue. And that is exactly what the show has touched upon here. Like, the father did not care about her at all. He let her live in the attic. He wanted her completely separated from Marissa at some point, and we learned from the mom that he was actually concerned about how their relationship was progressing, because apparently it was starting to seem like she had a crush on her or something. That's what he was worried about. And so I think at that moment, that's when I realized, okay, she for sure has a very obsessive relationship with Marissa. Like, yes, she sees her as a sister, but she also seems to be in love with her, because the way she was against every single man that Marissa dated, and the way she really had no remorse for killing Khalid, it really screamed to me, yeah, she definitely had an obsessive connection with Marissa. And even in that scene where she's telling Marissa that Khalid cheated on her, the way that let me tell you, the actress did an amazing job with that, but the way that she was caressing her and looking into her eyes, and the way that she was like emotionally starting to break down, that's not normal. That ain't normal. Like, even if she was in love with her, that is like obsessive. Like, she felt, at that moment, I thought she was gonna have a mental breakdown the moment she left. But yeah, so that's her past. And I think, honestly, judging from what happened in her past, even before she probably got to that foster family, I honestly think she's had some mental health issues a lot longer, just because it's not normal for kids to resort to violence. I mean, she bit the classmate of Marissa when they were just pulling a prank on her, and she literally stabbed her. That's not normal, right? But instead of trying to get this little girl some help, instead of trying to get her treatment, instead of trying to get her into therapy, instead of trying to understand why she's behaving the way she is, they just get rid of her. And again, that's another terrible thing that happens. They just give up on the child. And I can't imagine how traumatic that is for kids that already are being placed from one temporary home to another, to just be given up upon. Like, they're giving you up. That's terrible. And I'm pretty sure that also affected her in a huge way. And that plays back into what I was saying earlier about how she really only wanted to feel like she belonged, like she was wanted, like she had a community around her. She didn't get that from the foster family, only Marissa. And now that Marissa's gone, she doesn't have that at all. So it's very obvious to me why she's snapping. And this honestly seems to be what confuses some people about her character. I think a lot of people were focusing too much on the Nyjah aspect of it, and they were like, well, why is she so obsessed with Nyjah? Why is she killing people for Nyjah? What makes Nyjah so great? It's not even about Nyjah. It's really not. It's just that we have this person that is already so broken mentally. She lost the one person that actually cared about her in real life. So now she's latching on to this parasocial relationship that she thinks is stronger than what it actually is. And so I feel like this obsession with Nyjah really got stronger as soon as Marissa died, because that is what kind of tethered her to the little bit of reality she had left. And so it's not about like whether or not she's a huge fan of Nyjah. I mean, it could have been anybody, right? But I really do think this obsession with Nyjah was like the only thing that she had to push her forward, and that's what she latched onto. She didn't want to lose that. And also on this topic, we were never really given an exact diagnosis of what Dre is dealing with, but I thought it was quite clear she's got some sort of split personality disorder, because the phone is another aspect of the show, which is really cool, really well done. But we see that in the first episode, she takes the phone and we see her make that text. So we know, the audience knows that she's the one responding to herself. But in the other episodes, we don't really see her use Marissa's phone to respond. So all we're getting is this ghost response and then her texting back. But what's interesting is sometimes it's happening in a way that's so quick that you even wonder, like, did she even have time to take Marissa's phone out and text? Like in the elevator, those events were happening back to back, and there's no way, I'm sorry, there's no way she could have pulled out her phone like that and use both phones to text each other like that. So I'm wondering if also she was just hallucinating that, or maybe she is blacking out when she's texting as Marissa, and then she comes to in her own like psyche and realizes, oh, this is a text from Marissa. I don't know, but I do think that is definitely part of whatever she's got going on mentally. So for the remainder of this review, I kind of want to get into some theories I have, mostly for the ending. So in the finale, I thought it was really interesting because I started to wonder, like, we're clearly seeing this show through a very unreliable narrator. Episode 6 was all about realizing the truth behind the story. And here is episode 7, and it feels kind of different because obviously Dre looks different visually, but we're not seeing her off anyone either. We're not seeing her get violent until the very end, yet she's still like driving new cars and having money, so clearly she's doing something. But what I found interesting was the part of the episode where she finally gets a new girlfriend and meets her family, which I thought was quite fast. But anyways, that whole scene felt like it was a circle moment for her, because since day one it seemed like she wanted to feel belong, she wanted that connection, she wanted that stable family. She wasn't able to get that, but now she is, and she also has never been able to be like intimate with anyone, and I don't think we've ever seen her in a relationship or anything like that, and she has that with this new girl. And so she's getting all the things that she wants, and I'm sitting here wondering, is this really happening? Because at that point, all we've received is like snippets of information from episode 6. All we know is little sprinkles of the truth from the previous episode. And so I'm wondering, are these things that we're seeing in episode 7 actually what really happened in real life to this character? Because she very well could have found a girlfriend and been introduced to the family, or maybe whoever she killed wasn't actually a girlfriend to her, but maybe she saw it as that. Either way, when she gets to the concert, she has this out-of-body experience. Even the way the camera and the video effects look, it seems like the green screen or whatever looks way out of place. Like, it looks obviously fake. And I think that was obviously for artistic choice. Like, they wanted to show that this is all in her head. And then when Nyjah turns around, it is Marissa's face that she sees. And so in a way, she's getting closure for not being able to say goodbye to Marissa, but also she's able to meet this celebrity she's always wanted to meet. And obviously from episode 6, we know she was carried away by police, but in her mind, Nyjah took her under her wing and led her back to her little private car. And so that is, to me, what the ending was about. Like, she's got this closure in her mind. She's finally met the celebrity of her life. She's finally reached that epitome of happiness. And that's probably where she's gonna stay for the remainder of her life, in this little fantasy she's created for herself to cope with whatever she's got going on in her mind. So anyways, that was my review and my thoughts for Swarm. I think it was an amazing show. Personally, I don't want a season 2 for this story. A lot of people were like, we should do a season 2. I think her story is complete. I think we know everything we need to know about this character, and I'm content with this, but I don't want Swarm to go away. I think we should have this as our own White Lotus, you know what I mean? Anthology series. And there's so many directions you can go with parasocial relationships and fame and celebrity. Like, even in the parasocial realm of things, we only seen it from the fans aspect, but we don't know it from the celebrity's perspective. You know, being in a parasocial relationship with your fans is also going to take a toll on the celebrity. And also, you know, we could do a story on like the way these companies market these celebrities to the fan bases to kind of manipulate them into thinking that there's something more in this connection they have. And again, false idolship, we can do a whole season on cults. Like, I want this show to keep going. I don't want to just end here because it was so well done and it's also very easy to watch, 7 episodes. So if we can keep this show going, that would be great. And I think it would also answer some people's desires for wanting more with this show. I did see some criticism that the show could have dived deeper into these themes, but I think that there's a lot of aspects and routes you can go with the theme of parasocial relationships and fan and celebrity relationships that they did enough with this part of the topic, and anything else can be its own series, or it can be its own season, you know what I mean? And with that, I am officially done with this review. You know, I had so much fun watching this show, and I just would love to hear your opinions on the show. Did you enjoy it as much as I did? Did it leave you feeling unsettled? Did it make you laugh as much as it made me laugh? You know, were you able to spot the connection between the Beehive and Beyonce? What was your favorite episode? I would love to know. What are your thoughts on the ending? There's just, honestly, any comments you have on the show, I love to hear them in the comments. So with that, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Bye.
I never understood why somebody